Hmm.
There we
The
go. There we
spinning.
go.
I guess we're
There we
back live
go.
on the
5.
other
Okay.
platforms
Yeah.
now.
So now we're actually live correctly on the other platforms. Oh, okay.
You know how
Hello,
stressed that.
all.
You know how stressed that makes me, right? Like
I'm aware. I'm aware. You're a
like I'm a lawyer. I
perfectionist.
do everything by the time, man.
Ladies and
It's
gentlemen,
like
we're live.
5 minutes
5
late.
minutes late, yes, but I actually was running a bank of early starts. So if you really want to, if you really,
I don't think that's how it works, man.
well, yeah,
It's not
it's
how
going
it
to have
works.
to be.
Okay.
Let's revisit the David Allen. David
It
Allen.
was awesome.
Before we start, yeah, Rocco was a premier. They call it a premier.
Premier sponsor. Yeah.
Yeah, the Cozza Law Group and
Yep.
another firm.
Yep.
Rocco was a model.
Wow. Model. Use that term loosely. I was a guy that wore a tux that walked on a stage.
And you also, well,
we
were modeling to a degree.
Was I?
And he also set it up to his advantage, so he didn't have to do any particular spin moves.
No.
He lined up his entire staff on the front rows, so he could do a lot of high fives.
I mean,
tip a nod to his wife, and like one little sachet, and he was done.
Yeah, I mean that's why I was the premier sponsor. So I'm like, at least there'll be people in the front row that I can high five, so it won't be awkward. That's really the reason why we went with the premier sponsorship, just to put people.
Really?
No, it was. I mean, I will always support David's events.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's a great friend, and it's
a good story.
He put on a class act event. I mean, it was by far like best event I've been to.
It's hard to do a lot. I'll do last year, so that's
he outdid it, man.
Yeah, that's saying
he
something.
Outdid it by 100%. So yeah, it was phenomenal. You missed a good one. You picked the wrong one to miss.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional.
Stupid flu.
Well, yeah.
Well, so it's been 2 weeks, man.
Yes, it has.
Yeah,
and it seems like the world's on fire.
Yeah,
but we've used that term other weeks as well too.
It just gets more and more on fire every fucking week.
So obviously, we're going to spend some time on this war, which I guess you call it a war. It's been declared a war.
Yeah.
But also want to talk a little bit about the Republicans' continued inability to name a Speaker of the House.
I mean, yeah, what the fuck? I mean, look.
Let's do that first.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, why is this so fucking hard? Like, what? Like, why? Like I can't figure it out. And maybe I didn't look into it enough, or try and research what's going on enough. But like, I get why McCarthy was gone. I get that. Okay, he didn't keep promises.
Explain it to me then.
Well, my understanding wasn't. Again, there was some political theater to it, I believe. Yes, but he didn't keep up the promises he made. So like, okay, we're gonna show people that we hold our party accountable. That's the play I think they were trying to make. Now the fact that we can't get a fucking speaker in when we have the votes to do it boggles my fucking mind. Like, we need to get our shit together. The Republicans need to get their shit together. This whole country, all the politicians need to get their shit together, because we are falling apart. I feel like we are falling apart. The world is falling apart around us because we are appearing to, in my opinion, as a weak nation.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the consequence of it.
It is because we can't get politicians to agree on anything. When you have a fractured government in a fractured, two-party system, the rest of the world looks at it, it's like, hey, they're distracted by their own bullshit. We're just going to do what the fuck we want. Like, we used to be, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, we used to be the police power of the world, right? We kind of kept people in check. Like, hey, don't fuck around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fuck around, you find out. Like, that's truly what America is.
I agree.
I feel like now we're at the spot where it's like, people are like, well, they're just fucking around with themselves. Like, let's just see what we can do over here. And it's a scary time. It really is.
I think it's multifaceted. I think part of this plays into the fact that we're a look at me society, and our politicians have bought into this bullshit. So every time, it isn't enough sometimes for somebody to get elected to the House of Representatives. That isn't enough of an achievement. It's now you put the ability to be a star in their own minds at any moment in time.
Speaking of the star, a quick aside, which is comical. Did you see the AOC video she did where she farted in it?
No.
But my God.
Do tell.
Listen, man, I found it this morning and I was pissing my pants. And people like analyze this. Like, she was talking, like doing one of her live streams on Twitter from her account. And she's talking and you hear at one point, like in the background, and like people on Twitter lost their mind. And I was watching videos of people like literally heat signature, that were doing like the volume signature, analyzed it, and she just kept going, dude. Didn't even delete it, nothing. And it was audible. Like it was audible, like something my daughters would do when they're talking to me, like when they'll think it's hilarious. This was literally audible. And I'm like, oh my God, these are the politicians we have. This person is giving a serious speech on, I think it was like the Israeli conflict, and literally farts in the speech. And just kept going. And then people, instead of caring about what the content of the actual video was, this is why I love the internet. People were literally analyzing the sound and like raising the volume with the fart and lowering her. It was the best thing.
Well, the internet's undefeated.
I mean,
the internet continues.
That was undefeated today.
Here's great reasons for it. I think that every, that the term grandstanding has been around in politics forever, right? Mm-hmm. But it's exemplified today because, you can take a junior congressman,
sure,
and that junior congressman now has the media vehicles to be a fucking, in their own minds, a superstar day one,
of course.
And whether it was Matt Getz or part of that little crew, I think it sadly may have something to do with promises that were made that weren't kept, all that. But I also think a lot of it is just simply the ability to do it because I can.
That's a lot of it.
I have the balls to do it. So I'm going to do it.
There's a lot of grandstanding in politics right now. And the problem is, like, we just need to get our shit together as a country and realize that we need to fix a lot of shit here. And if we don't get our shit together, the world's going to fall apart.
We're not close to doing that.
That's the scary part. Like we need strong leadership, whether it's a Democrat or Republican in the presidency. We need someone who is a strong leader and who the rest of the world respects. That's where I think we went wrong in this election. I just think people just don't respect Biden, unfortunately.
I would concur. I think the proof's in the pudding. And I think as time has marched on here, a lot in his own party have come to that determination as well, too.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, when you can't find your way off a stage.
Well, yes. And
like that's kind of a problem.
It's interesting because it appears to me that when COVID hit, what it did do is take the idea of international peace, international strength off the table for a while. Like the idea of us being a strong nation and we need a strong international policy, and that's generally always on the footprint. But COVID, this domestic issue, although it was all over the world, we really were only cared about what was happening to us.
Yeah, right.
That was the focus. It became a domestic issue.
Yeah.
And the idea of a strong foreign policy has been off the table for too long. And we're now in a situation which, we started to see that with Ukraine and Russia to a degree. But now with this conflict, it's really apparent that we have to have strong foreign policy.
Yeah.
And now we want to revisit it. How convenient.
Well, the problem is, I think where we are, and again, I'm not a geopolitical expert. I'm just, I read and I know enough to be dangerous, and I may not know all the true and correct facts. I just think my perspective is that we're on the brink of something terrible if we don't figure out what the fuck we need to do as a country and how to at least broker some level of some semblance of order in the world. Like, it's just like, yes, what this terrorist attack was horrific. What happened? Horrific. And Israel has every right to retaliate. Like, it was horrific what happened. But we got to look back even further. Well, why did it happen? Like, I don't know. Was it the $6 billion that was given to Iran? I don't know. There's speculation about that, right? They're saying, well, it wasn't released. But again, like you said before the show, if they know the $6 billion is coming, they're going to take other money they have and use it elsewhere.
It's human nature.
I mean, yes, if I know I have a paycheck coming on Friday and I have $100 in my account today, I could spend the $100 knowing it's going to be replenished on Friday. And that money has to go to pay bills. But today I can go out and have fun with this $100.
It's human nature.
It's basic math. It's a simple logic. So I don't understand why again, the problem I have is we can't just call it like it is. We're always trying to make excuses and justifications. It's like, No, I think we all kind of know what's going on here. We all kind of have a feeling of what is going on. Let's just put it on the table and sort it out and figure out what the fuck is actually going on, and then try and solve the problem.
Well, there's no administration or there's no individual politicians that want to admit a mistake. I mean, it must be in the playbook. When you get to Congress, they must hand you a playbook, and it says, number one thing, never admit you were wrong, because
I would respect so many more politicians.
I think we all would.
If they would say, like, I was wrong. Like, did you see Fetterman on Late Night Show this week?
No,
he said on Late Night Show, like, we're not sending our best and brightest to Washington, D.C. He said that
look in the
as
mirror?
He's sitting there. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, not to sound like an asshole, but I feel like you are not the best and the brightest. Like,
he obviously thinks he is.
And this is what I mean. Like, there's this delusion that these politicians have. It's like when they get into power, they think they're invincible. They think that rules don't apply to them. They think that they are above everybody else. Like, you are elected by us. Like, we are all individuals. We are all people. No one is better or worse than anybody.
Yeah.
But it seems like when people rise to this level of power, they become this self-aggrandizing person where they're just like, I am the best. I'm smarter than all of you. Like, I know what to do. You don't. And it causes all these problems now.
Or do as I say.
Yeah, not as I do.
Don't pay attention to what I do. It's none of your fucking business.
Exactly. Like, and this is the problem. And this is why we get into these situations where we can't get politicians to agree. Because, like I said on this show,
is simple stuff.
It's simple stuff. And I've said this 1,000 times. Like, we all kind of want the same shit. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, about 80% of what we all want is probably close to the same with some nuances, right? It's the fucking crazies on the spectrum, the far left and the far right, and it's the politicians that are playing to those.
Well, speaking of that, let's dive into this a little bit.
Okay.
So I made an observation the other day.
Love it.
I did it all by myself.
Okay. That's
apparently, if you are and again, I'm sure there's examples on the right. I just haven't seen them yet. Okay. But if you are of the ilk where you consider yourself having some far left ideas.
Okay.
Apparently, if you are a activist for gay rights or for transgender rights or whatever, and that's your thing, your philosophical thing, that also immediately makes you pro Hamas.
What?
Yes.
Wait.
I have seen multiple parts of protests on multiple campuses across this country with signs being held up. Trans for Palestine, trans for Hamas, gays for Hamas. Now, far be it from me to explain, but I'm not really sure they got an understanding of how the gay lifestyle is viewed in the Muslim religion and thus in the Muslim countries. And far be it from me to tell them, because I really don't care. But I'm just saying it is interesting that if you are far left in your philosophy, that immediately puts you in the club of being in this circumstance, and maybe we're only talking about this particular circumstance, that puts you in the anti-Israel club.
So
fascinating.
So wait. So hold on. Let's clarify the semantics of what you just said. What I heard and what I don't think you meant is that if you are for gay rights, you fall into that club. I think these are people that chose to be part of that club on those campuses. Like, it's not like if you are pro-gay, pro-trans, you're pro-Hamas. Like, these people chose in these protests on this campus to, like, hey, trans for Hamas, gays for those groups of people. So we're not lumping everybody together. Saying,
I don't lump everybody into anything, but there seems to
clarify
patterns.
Well,
you can only go by patterns and what we see. And I just find it insane that the ignorance of the issues is that deep.
Well, no, look, you've said this how many times on the show? No one critically thinks anymore. Like, no one looks at the issues. People just want to be part of a club. People want to be part of a protest. People want to be part of something. This is what I think. And especially, like, my son's in college, right? Like, he's a smart kid and his friends are smart. They don't know all this shit. Think about it realistically. Let's take politics aside. Let's take bullshit aside. How many kids on a college campus truly know what Hamas is about, what the Israeli conflict's about, what Palestine stands for, what Israel stands for? No one knows. I can guarantee if you polled 100 kids on a college campus, I would give $1,000 to any one of those kids that could articulate the actual historical significance of all this bullshit. I would still have $1,000 after we went through all those 100 interviews. I can guarantee you that. They just want to be part of something controversial because it gives them a feeling of significance. I am part of the controversy. I'm standing up for this, or I'm standing up for this, even though I don't know what the fundamental beliefs behind it are and how it clashes with my beliefs. It's in this moment I feel part of something, and I'm controversial. I'm taking a stand.
Our future world leaders.
That's the fucking problem, right? That is the problem.
And
correct,
the ultra wacky professors who are out there celebrating the Jewish deaths, celebrating them, the terrorists.
That's ridiculous.
And they're still employed by the universities under the guise, well, it's free speech. I mean, it's interesting. These are the same people who say that free speech has consequences.
You can't have it both
ways.
But
it's never consequences when it affects you.
Correct.
See?
This is the problem with everything in this country. I feel like we try and have it. We can't have it both ways. If you're going to say it's free speech, then free speech for everybody, right? Then if you want to say conservative things, if you want to be a Trump supporter, that's free speech. You can't have it. You can't censor people. You can't cancel people because you got offended. But when you say something, oh, it's free speech. I can do what I want. First Amendment. Like, no, that's not how this fucking works. Like, it's got to be consistent across the board. Like, it's bullshit. Like, this is the problem with our country right now.
These Ivy League schools, primarily these East Coast Ivy League schools, is where the major amount of protests are going on. But it's spilling onto the streets of Los Angeles and in New York. And I get it. There's, I understand the elements and tenets of protesting. I do. It's not my bag. I've never been a big protester kind of person, human being, but I understand why it's needed. What I don't understand is the vile, disgusting rhetoric from some of the professors that are egging these kids on, that are standing on the podium and egging on. And it's more than just the ones that are visible to us. It's the ones in the classroom that don't have the balls to be visible. Right. It's the narrative in these Ivy League schools somehow that in the intellectua of our society, you must be an out of the box ultra left thinker, or you're just, that's the trend that it's all being pushed to, and you're seeing it play out on college campuses. I think
that's going to shift, though. I when talking to Gabe, my son, I think it's starting to shift. I think because he's even said, like, when he first went to school, it was very liberal, his campus, and I think more and more people from just my discussions with him are speaking up against it. They're tired of the bullshit. Because here's the thing, like, you can have your viewpoints, right? Like, if you want to be far left, far right, that is your right as an American to have those viewpoints. The problem that I think has been caused in this country, and where I think shit is going to come to a head really soon, is one part of this society is trying to force their views on everybody else. And it's like, if you don't agree with me, you're offensive. You're a terrible person. You're evil. No, we just have different opinions. And I think people at first, they were kind of scared of this, not scared, but just like they didn't want to be bothered by it. They didn't want to be canceled, so they avoided it. Now, in thinking it would just go away. Like, if we avoid them, they will just go away.
Why didn't it go away?
Because they're just because they're trying to push even harder, because no one's stopping them. But now I think people are like, wait a minute, enough is enough. Like, we need to get back to some semblance of normalcy. That's how I see it. I could be completely wrong. That's how I see it. I am starting to see people push back against some of this bullshit.
So would you not agree that any university, no matter what kind of charade is played in front of it, ultimately it is a for-profit circumstance?
Yeah.
It is a product of our capitalistic society. Right?
Yeah.
Although the rhetoric will come by that capitalism's evil and, all these different issues that are caused by the evil capitalism and these capitalistic people and all that rhetoric. But ultimately, it runs on money.
Correct.
Donors, alumni, in some states, some institutions, government money.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to me that the board of trustees of these colleges and the administrations are permitted to be so, I'll say it, just left wing and really far out, and I would venture to say often very destructive in their viewpoints and articulating them in the manner in which it's done. The faculty and part of the student body gets away with murder, and of course the cameras are going to get it. I get it.
Yeah,
but it does not help, and it puzzles me that the pro-business part of their alumni and their trustees just permit it to happen. Like, don't you think the funds would dry up at some point in time?
Yeah, again, there's so much to academia that I don't understand, and I don't understand how they get away with some of the shit they do, and how federal funds and how's
it helping society? Like, free speech helps society. I get that, but like, Rocco, let's drill down to this circumstance. You and I are not geopolitical scholars. Mm-hmm. We don't have all the details. We had an option today to go really detail oriented. We decided not to do it and talk more in generalities. But the essence of this, as we've been told on multiple networks, seems to be consistent that out of the blue, Hamas went into Israel, tortured and killed. Mm-hmm. I don't know about the rape part. I hear there's some rapes going on too, but they murdered a bunch of like infants, and then kidnapped some people and brought them over the line. So I would venture to say that constitutes the initiation of a conflict by terrorism. Okay. That is the definition of a terrorist to me.
Okay.
An unprovoked attack on a group of people over philosophy. That's terrorism.
Okay.
Now, we have people in this country that won't call that terrorism.
Okay.
That is a scary, scary thing.
Okay.
Number one. Okay. Number two, we have people in our society that are willing to be vocal, that are out there over the past 7-10 days now, vocalizing that none of that happened after they're shown the video proof. The world has been shown the proof on multiple media streams of what happened. They're in denial that it didn't happen. You and I understand that it's hard to believe everything you see. I mean, if we're not living in a conspiracy, at least we're very critical as to what we're going to believe to be fact and what isn't. I get it. Pretty obvious this was started by a terrorist act. I mean, it's pretty obvious, I think, to most of the world. To see people in denial of that and somehow are trying to, I'll screw this word up, moral relativism, right? To try to use some other way. Yeah, but Hamas did that and they chopped those babies' heads off. But I mean, we're in a dangerous fucking time. I mean, I have watched enough, sadly, television over the past 10 days and seen enough examples on multiple networks that there are elements in our society now that think nothing of going out there, number one, making asses of themselves, but number two, just spewing the most ridiculous and vile shit.
Well, look, we can get into a whole different discussion about this, and I don't think it's warranted in this situation. I think the problem is, like we've said before, what is truth anymore? Like, where does the truth lie? Right. And I think we're looking at these situations, and I think what happened was horrific. I think, from my perspective, it is terrorism. It absolutely is. Like, that's how I believe. Some people may not believe that's terrorism, and that's what I'm saying. But you make that face, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's.
I need to know the definition of it.
But what I'm saying is, so your definition was going into a country, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. Like, this is not a taking position. I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yep.
Your definition, if I can recall, going into a country unprovoked because of a different philosophy, right? That's what you said.
And raping and pillaging.
Well, you didn't say that. But you said going in and attacking. So I'm using the definition. If there's continuing to that,
that might be war. I'm talking about terrorism.
But no, but what you said, I'm just again playing devil's advocate, not debating this with you. It was they went into a country unprovoked and attacked this country because
not their military.
Attacked citizens because of
that's terrorism.
Because of
my definition,
right? But the United States has done things like that in past conflicts, where we went into places unprovoked because of taking out a government, because of a difference of philosophy,
and attacked their citizens.
Citizens were collateral damage.
That wasn't the case here.
Right, I understand that. I'm saying, but we're drawing these fine lines, and I think we have to. But what I'm saying is, like, I agree that it is terrorism. I agree that it is. I 100% agree. But I think everybody's going to have this different perspective of things, and I think
that's fine.
People are going out and saying all these things, and I don't think people have enough knowledge or critical thinking to actually know what they're talking about when they're doing these protests. Like, that's what I see. Like, I don't. Again, like, we're talking about protests on college campuses. I don't think any of these people know what's actually going on. Like, what is the history behind it? Why this has happened? Like, where this comes from, what it stems from, what the two sides think. Like, no, but they're picking a side to protest because they just want to be part of a conflict.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's the problem we have, I believe, in this country is we're not critical thinkers anymore. We're not looking at things from various perspectives. We're picking a position without knowledge of the position and taking it and causing discontent and conflict. Well, that's what I'm saying. It is dangerous. It is dangerous. But I think we have to be responsible in how we define things, how we discuss things. And I think that's something we need to get better as a country. We need to put all the facts on the table. We need people to disseminate the correct information, the actual information, and not spin things and not sensationalize things, because it creates these conflicts that are artificial. It creates conflicts in America, protests based upon things the news is telling us that we don't know if it's true or not. One news station is saying none of this shit happened. The other one's saying it all happened. Who do you believe? Like, you and I know what we believe, but someone else may believe because they didn't see what we've seen. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many pieces. There's so many layers.
I guess I understand logistics of believing only what you have knowledge of. I get all of that, but I think there's enough media today, and there's enough cohesion within the various media companies to see there's a consistent narrative there. Now, if it's all bullshit and there's a greater power above that, just orchestrating the strings, and I just give up.
No, I'm not saying that, but there's also people that only watch one news station that don't do what we do and try and disseminate more information.
Al Jazeera, is that what it's called? Al Jazeera. Then that'll be the only one I'd imagine out there of huge mainstream significance, which probably isn't towing the line.
Yeah, but again, like, I mean, where do people get news now? Do people watch cable news anymore? Do people go on the internet and watch? Do people get news from TikTok, from Instagram, from YouTube? Like, think of where people are getting their information. Like, this is, and people are believing things they see online,
which is a problem.
This is what I'm saying. Like, this is what I'm saying. We're making all these claims, and I agree. Like, there are certain things that are happening, but like, there are so many information sources out there that people believe to be true that formulate the opinions they're taking. And we don't know all of it. Like, there's so much information out there. I can go on TikTok right now. I can guarantee you, just based upon us talking right now, if I go on my feed, it's going to spit out information about this conflict. All sides of it. Not just the good side, not just about all sides of it. So I'm going to see 50 different theories of what is actually going on, and none of them are going to be cohesive. I've already seen it. I've already went through the feed and saw different stories of different sets of facts, different reasonings. There's underground labs. There's this, there's that. There's all of these things that, like, people put together creative videos that look like news.
Yes.
You know, they can use AI to make something look like it's actually legit. And some people that don't have the ability to critically think at a deep level are going to be like, that's what's fucking going on.
So
that's what's scary to me.
Okay. So under that premise, at what point in time is it going to become a zero-sum game where there will be no order? There will be nothing but chaos because everybody has a different reality. To me, this is a very clear-cut circumstance of what terrorism is, who provoked this, the atrocities that were done, and we can argue about what's right and wrong in terms of fighting out the battle. Because I'm not a war scholar. I can't tell you what my opinion doesn't matter. We can talk about the tactics involved and so forth going forward, but this started because this one group did something to this other group, and it was so horrific. That's how, in this instance, that's how this recent event started. And if we can't make any moral judgment, if we really are going to take the stance that, well, I really don't know what the truth is, so I really can't take a stand. And that seems like there might be a reason to take that in many instances in life now, because there's so much information. I don't know what's right and wrong anymore. then we're headed down a fucking really dangerous path.
We've been heading down this path for 10 years.
Yes.
This is not a new path.
This is not sustainable.
This is not a new path.
This misinformation or this inability to make solid judgments in our life because we don't trust the information that we're given, this is not sustainable long term. Human beings will not make it. They won't make it long term.
Listen,
some order has to come from somewhere.
I saw something posted, I think it was earlier today, and it was talking about like the problem we have right now is kids are being taught in school that feeling is thinking. And that's where we're going wrong.
1,000%.
Like, and when I read that, I'm like, that is the basis of the problem.
1,000%.
And it's so, I can't remember who posted, but I read it. It was like kind of like, this is not the problem. This is not the problem. This is not the problem. Kids are being taught this. This is the problem. That feeling is thinking, and that is the farthest thing from the truth.
And why do you? But
we are basing all of our decisions on how we feel.
And why do you think that is?
I don't have any fucking idea. I don't have any idea. Why?
I think I go back to science. There's this there's a scientific formula, and I'm going to butcher this. I'm not a science scholar, but it basically is matter will take the easiest path from A to B.
Path of least resistance. Okay.
Technically, there's a more sophisticated way of saying it,
okay.
which I don't have at the tip of my tongue right now. But I think it comes down to human nature. And invariably, humans, by their nature, are lazy. Lazy is a term that humans have created, and it's got a negative connotation to it. Look at it broader than that. We're just going to take what requires the least amount of work to survive. It's going by feelings as opposed to thinking. It's just playing to who we are. It's easier to analyze my feelings than it is for me to think out complex things.
So I think about it differently. I understand that point. I tend to think it's feelings lead to action quicker than thinking does. So they can provoke action in society by triggering feelings. If people think,
also true.
I think that's why we have these problems, right? I'm offended. I feel hurt, so I'm gonna fucking take action. I'm gonna instead of thinking like, why do I really feel like?
So it's an energy play. There's more energy in feelings.
More energy in feeling. Absolutely. It causes action quicker. It creates motion quicker. Like it causes a human being to do something. Like think about that. Like they always say, think before you react, right? Why? Because thinking slows you down. It makes you ponder and question things. And is this the right reaction?
Right.
Where there's been many times in my life where I just react. I'm like, that was fucking dumb. Like, should not have done that, but my feelings took control. When your feelings take control, you react. When thinking takes control, you stop, you slow down, and you analyze things. And I think the schools are teaching us feelings matter more than thinking because feelings create action. And if you want a population to do something, if you want a generation to do something, you get to play you play to their feelings,
so you get them charged
up, not to their actual critical thinking ability.
It's such an unsophisticated way of living, and I don't mean that that's not a top-down comment. I mean unsophisticated in the most genuine way possible. It's a very unsophisticated way of maneuvering, not being able to think about the next question, which should clarify hopefully the one prior.
I mean, my theory is always ask the next question. There's always one more question to ask, and when there isn't, you have the answer. Like that's just how. I mean, that's as a lawyer, that's how I'm trained, right? You ask the next question. You know, unless you know what the answer is, you don't want it, then you leave it unsaid. But I'm always going to ask the next question. There's always something underlying.
It's created like this rage culture. Like it's
feelings, man.
It's just it's at the forefront of everything. And now we want to litigate that. We want to vote for politicians based on feelings. I think part of our lust of sports and the teams we root for is all feeling. I think
yes,
it's really conflated too strongly in modern society in a lot of ways.
Well, but understand why, right? Because the whole purpose of life is to feel, right? Feelings is what makes life, right? I want to feel love. I want to feel pain. I want to feel joy. I want to feel pleasure. The feeling makes you feel alive, right? So when you teach a generation to that's what matters, like If you feel something, then that means it's true. Like that's what they're doing, right? God. This is the problem. But this is it. Like,
I'm not disputing it.
If you feel offended, that was offensive. No. That's not it. You feel offended because that was your feelings. I could have said your shirt's puke green, and if you say I feel fucking offended, like that doesn't take away the fact of the fact. It's a green shirt. Like it's just we're teaching kids the feeling that associated with what I said is more important than what was actually said, and thinking about what was actually said. And also, if you think about that, you're like, yeah, you're right. My shirt is that color.
And I think by doing that repetitively over a decade or two, it puts people on the back foot all the time, and they become reactionary.
100%.
Yeah, they're looking to be egreged.
Yes, this is why we're. If you walk down the street and you smile at someone, most of the time they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, smiling at you. Hi, like I'm just a pleasant person, but their brain is wired to react. Not to think maybe this person's just a nice person smiling at me. What's the underlying motive? They make me feel unsafe. They smiled at me. They looked at me. I feel unsafe. Like that's the fact. Their truth is the feeling, not the actual fact. This is where we are, dude.
But to some folks, thinking is very difficult too, and maybe it is more difficult the longer you go without practicing.
Is it though, or people just don't want to do it? I mean, thinking is not easy. Let's be honest. Like, right. Thinking takes work. Like sometimes I'll sit there in my office and just think, and my brain hurts. Yeah, I'm thinking about things. I'm contemplating.
Feelings are easier.
Correct. It's easier just to feel mad, but to think, why am I?
We're lazy,
right? But think
we're intellectually lazy,
but think about it, right? Like if I'm feeling like off, right? Like I'm just like I just feel off. Like it's easy to feel off, but to actually think why. Am I and discern why I'm feeling off? That takes mental fortitude.
Agreed.
That takes energy.
Agreed.
And some people just like, oh, fuck it, I'm just fucking mad today. Instead of trying to understand the underlying cause and solve for that to prevent that anger going forward and to prevent it from happening in the future, there's like, well, fuck it, I'm mad. So when you get triggered by that same feeling again, you never solve the problem. You just keep regurgitating the same feeling. And so you associate the feeling as the thought of I'm mad instead of understanding why you actually are mad.
1,000,000%. And that's why, and it gets so deep rooted. That's why it becomes harder and harder to change. Yeah. You don't want to change people's thoughts, but you want to present them enough,
correct,
hopefully enough facts so they can come to the conclusion themselves.
Yeah.
It's not happening on a real wide basis today.
No, dude, it's not. It's not.
All right, slight right turn. So I've always been of the belief, and I know I've got a lot of people that probably disagree with me, but I believe that since the Shah of Iran back in the late 70s was ousted from Iran, we have not effectively dealt with Iran as the United States has not effectively dealt with Iran, and we've let Iran become a pain in our ass for a long time. But at the same time, do terrorist acts along the way, but also acquire nuclear weapons, and they've been working toward a nuclear bomb. What process they're in there? I'm pretty sure they're probably getting pretty close to being able to send one our direction. Okay. And it doesn't seem to me that it didn't matter the administration, Republican, Democrat. No one really wanted to deal with Iran. Now, I think there was a peace accord that was signed when Trump was in.
Yeah,
they can look to that. Maybe I don't know if it directly would have affected Iran. I don't know. I'm not a geopolitical scholar, but it seems to me my general premise is, Rocco, we just have not. We keep kicking the can down the road.
Correct.
And now. Because the public, we don't really know how strong Iran is or all the covert shit that goes on. We only hear we're being told.
Right.
I get the feeling, though. I do get the feeling that we may have waited too long.
Sure.
And now we may be locked in a position where it might not be like we can't just go in and like correct Russia. Right. You know, Russia's too big. We cannot just go in and correct China.
No.
Right. But usually in the Middle East countries, we had enough strength and wherewithal and political an economic pull to make changes. We've neglected it. And I think that part of the reason I think is that the American public does not have the stomach anymore for any more war after Iraq and everything else that went on in 9/11 and all that. And I'm just worried right now that we may be pulled into the conflict almost indirectly with Iran and not going at it full force from an intimidating standpoint, but kind of like getting backed into it. That's what I feel might happen.
I mean, we've already sent troops over there. We spent, 2,000 troops? I think they called up 2,000 more.
I think.
And they sent a second carrier over. So I'm sure we're getting.
I think it's more than 2 now.
I'm sure we're getting pulled into this. Again, like, I don't know enough about the Middle East and all the conflicts. That's something I just never really looked into or studied. But I do think in this situation, I do think we'll be pulled into this conflict. I think it's already happening.
It's very apparent to me over the past 5 to 7 years for sure, 100% that we were on the road for energy independence. Combination of like new technologies, but also the pipeline and producing enough oil or getting it from our neighbors. We were just about there. And a portion of our society is more concerned about feeling green than our national defense.
Yeah.
And as we sit today, to extrapolate a little further, we had the ability to marginalize the effect of the Middle East on our economy and on the world's economy for that matter.
Absolutely.
And maybe stifle some of the money coming to their coffers. That was all on the table. We were making movements to do that all.
Yeah.
And we lost it and gave it all away.
Yeah, we did. We need to get it back. I mean, we need to be energy independent, in my opinion. Like, that was the biggest mistake this administration has made, in my opinion. Because I don't think you're ever going to be able to go green completely, like they say. It's never going to happen. It's never going to fucking happen. It's never going to happen.
But but even if we did their version of green, there is damage to our world, the ecology of our world with that process. It's just a different kind of damage.
Yeah.
I'm saying we had an opportunity to marginalize the Middle East. We had an opportunity to economically marginalize
money. Think about it. War, we can marginalize the Middle East, but then what about all these defense contractors? When conflicts break out, they make a shit ton of money. Like, war is an economy in and of itself.
We've permitted that to happen.
Well, right. And are we going to stop it? We haven't stopped it from happening. So, yeah, we now don't need the Middle East. We don't really give a shit about the conflicts anymore. Right? If we don't need the Middle East, we become energy independent, right? Like, how much are we going to care as much as we do now about what's going on? Maybe not.
Much more. It would have been a wonderful thing. We would have had the ability to manage the Middle East more to our liking if we weren't so dependent on them.
Yeah, I just think there's so many pieces to that, and I think I agree with you. We should be energy independent as a country. There's no reason why we can't be, and I think that
we were doing
it. We were, and I think the next administration coming in, we should look to do that, because that helps with national defense. Like, there's so many things that does for the economy, for our national defense, and the fact that who gives a shit about, like, honestly, with going green. I mean, so many people talk about, like we've said on this podcast before, articulate to me what it actually means.
I don't know.
And what does going green actually mean? Meaning, like, how are you going to eliminate all fossil fuels from fucking everything? No, you're not going to be able to do that. So explain to me the level of green you want to become. And
it's not real measurable.
Right. And this is the problem. Like, people talk and use these buzzwords and take a stance on something because they heard it from something
at the expense of our national defense.
Correct. Yes,
at the expense of the safety of America, and at the expense of our economic well-being, quite frankly.
Yes.
What a cost. What a cost to make you feel fucking better that you're green. Fuck that. I mean, and here's the thing. Are you for child labor? Are you for are you for like destroying the environment where the mining is happening for these batteries?
Yeah.
I mean, what is really the cost?
Listen, man,
I don't know.
I don't either.
Because no one can articulate it to me.
Right.
One side wants to tell their side of the story. The other side wants to say why they're wrong. There's no real pragmatic discussion going on.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. And this is the problem. And I just think that, I don't even really know how to articulate it, to be honest with you. I've gotten to a point with where we are as a country and what we're doing, globally here at home. Like, we've become a laughing stock.
Yes.
And I love this country, and I think we do live in the greatest country on the planet. But I think we need to fucking right the ship quick, and that's going to take a heavy lift from the next administration, and that means looking at energy independence, looking at our national defense, looking at our tax system, looking at our economy, looking at taking care of our veterans,
looking at our Justice Department,
looking at everything that's happening. I mean, I feel like if we went back in time 40 years and told people, like, this is what's going to happen, they'd be like, no fucking way. Like, no fucking way. Like, it is a fucking shit show. Like, it is almost comical. Like, when you think about all the stuff that's happening in this country, like, we have a president, like, God bless the guy, but he can't get off a fucking stage. He can't figure out where the steps are. Like, how did we get here?
Did you see the CBS one-on-one interview with him this week?
No, I can't even watch those things. It hurts me to watch. It's like, this is painful.
It's painful. It's painful to anyone who watches it.
Yes.
Regardless of your political bent.
Correct.
Looking at it as a human.
Yeah.
Looking at him struggle. Looking at it's like you would see, we've all have aging relatives.
Yes,
it's like
absolutely.
You're watching an aging relative up there, and you want to kind of like, get them away from the microphone.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. And that's the part that, I feel for this country. I feel for all this shit that's going on in this world. I just pray that we right the ship soon, because something has to change. I've got kids,
and if it isn't going to be America, then who's it going to be? We're the last hope.
We are the last.
I hate
hope.
to say it, because of our scope. Absolutely, because of our scope of our power, economically, intellectually, everything that we have, we should be leading the world, and hopefully being we should be leading the world morally, economically, from a military strength. It's like we should resume that position.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure we're there.
Think about it this way. Name one other country in the world that people are trying to sneak into for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
We are the last hope. We are the last hope. I mean, we are the last country on this planet that people are trying to sneak into for freedom. Like, if
not sneaking into Guatemala.
If this country goes, freedom in this world is gone. We are the last hope for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to right the ship, man. We have to. This is a downer, man.
Oh, man.
I'm just gonna go home and cry. Fuck it. I'm just gonna go to the gym. Fucking cry at the gym. Son of a
Hopefully
bitch.
next week we will reconvene. There'll be something positive happening.
Let's just take a
there.
week off of politics 1 week. Like, let's just talk about fucking puppies and rainbows.
We could do that. If something else crazy would happen in the world, we would do that too. But it just seems like this Israeli Hamas thing is terrifying to me for a lot of reasons.
I get it.
I just don't. And and the unwillingness of some average Americans to look at that act of barbarism and terrorism and not be able to call it that. That's really unsettling to me.
I understand.
As a citizen, that's unsettling to me.
I get it.
Because if these are my neighbors,
and
they don't think that's terrorism, and they're living next to me, like,
yeah, I get it.
Well, what the hell is then?
Mm-hmm. I understand completely.
It's like the people who didn't want the police, after the riots and everything, or not the riots, or the protests and everything, both happened, I guess. And then, they don't want the police, but they'll be the first person to call the police when they need the police. We
have a double standard sometimes.
All right, partner.
Oh, man.
Until next week, we'll do it all again. Hopefully the world's not quite the same temperature as it is this week. It's pretty hot right now.
Well, first of all, it's hot in here right now, and I feel sad.
Actually, it's a winter time.
Listen, dude, maybe just I'm fired up. It's been like a week.
I put the AC on in the middle of winter for Rocco.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that definitely, but yes, hopefully next week it will be better and more enjoyable discussion, and I will feel less emotional.
We will be 5 minutes late.
Well, maybe you'll fucking figure out how to use a computer next time.
Yeah, I did something. I didn't do something wrong.
Sorry, man. Hey, it is what it is.
I'm getting old.
It's all right.
All right, friends. As always, thank you. We'll see you again next week.
Yep.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, man.